Kag gituluhan na ako na akong pagtuon, losing your first love. So subong, ang next na church is the church of Smyrna. May alas ang 7 ka churches, diri ka dimension sa libro sa Revelation. Kag ay kaduwa nga iglesia nato pamaladuhan ang mga iglesia sa Smyrna, the persecuted church. Pasahon na verse 8 down to verse 11 sa liwat ko na tindog ka sa paghatag ng Espiritu sa tulong sa iyo. Kasama ko sa dungan ko rin na ako begin. And unto the angel of the church in Smyrna, write these things, saying, the first and last, which was dead is alive. I know the works, the tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know that the speak of them says they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. Fear not of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast out with business, that he may be tried, and he shall have tribulation with 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee the crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith to the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt. Ngayon, dahil kami alam sa kami sini, hindi kami pinapagalan sa bayan ng Kristus. Sa puso ang sulat sa Smyrna, amuni siya ang pinakalipod na sulat sa tanan ng iglesia, sa pitong iglesia. Okay? Kaya lawig na sulat. Pero ang church ng Smyrna, amuni siya ang pinakalipod na sulat. Lipod siya pero puno sa pagdayaw kung paghimaya sa Diyos. Ang church ng Smyrna, wala kita diri si makita na ang Ginoo nagsabdo sa ina. Wala sang rebuke kung pagbuong sa Ginoo sa sining iglesia. Okay? Unlike sa nato last Sunday school during the evening service, ang church of Ephesus, ang Ginoo nag-rebuke sa ina. Ang palang Ginoo, thou hast left thy first love. Pero diri, sa passage na basa naton, wala sang rebuke sang Ginoo sa church ng Smyrna. Alright? May ara man isa ka church, which is the church of Philadelphia, nga wala man sang rebuke. Okay? So, nga adiri ang Ginoo na please gid siya sa iglesia sang Smyrna. Okay? Now, malawig ni aton ng taon una, ng taon naton, ang una gid nga punto ng taon naton ang background para mahangpan naton kung ano ang luyag ipensindi sa Ginoo sa sining iglesia kag sa aton tanan, sa aton pag-alagad sa Ginoo. Ang city sang Smyrna was important for her trade. Okay? She was located on a deep gulf about 35 miles north sang Ephesus. And it had a great harbor that could be totally enclosed in time of war. Nag-abot ang tiyon nga ini nga syudad naguba kay ginatake ini sa mga Lydians. Pero nag-rebuild iniliwat paagi sa kay Alexander the Great. Kag kanami isang plano ni Alexander the Great kay siya nag-build liwat sa sininga city. Kag determine siya na ining Smyrna mahimo siya a model Greek city. And to make the long story short, natuman ang handom ni Alexander the Great. So ang city nangin maayo, it was a city of wealth and commercial greatness and was referred to as the beautiful. Okay? Isa ka matahom sa pag-rebuild liwat ni Alexander the Great ang syudad sang Smyrna. Nagbaton man ni sa ngalan from one of its principal commercial products, amo ni ngalan nga myrrh. Are you familiar with the word myrrh? Kung nadumduman ninyo, sang natao si Jesus, may 3 ka wise men, di ba? Naghatag sang gift. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So, ato nilang tawon karon kung anong kahulugan sang pulong nga myrrh related sa church sang Smyrna. So, it also had a profitable trade in wine. Subong, hindi na ni makita ngalan nga Smyrna. Subong nga panahon, ang ginpangalan ini nga lugar,
Izmir. Okay? Ara sa pungsod ini sa Turkey. Kag sadto nga tiyon, may ara sa population 300,000 people, with 2/3 of the people being professing Christian. Now, ang Greek word ng Smyrna, it means suffering. And it comes from the word myrrh. Alright? Ang myrrh was a fragrant aromatic sap taken from a shrubby tree, and it had a bitter taste. Pait siya kayo. Pero pirti ni kahamot. Sabi no? Pirti ka pait, pero pirti kahamot. And this gum could be extracted by cutting an incision into the bark of its trunk and branches. So magwa dira ang iyang oily sap, magwa dira sa isa ka kahoy, hasta nga makuha nila inang myrrh. Pait siya kayo tilawon, pero kapirti iniya kahamot nga klase nga butang. Okay? So ang process diri, ang ina nga kahoy, madisfigure gid yang kahoy. Kung kwaon nila ang myrrh sa sina nga kahoy, maguba gid yang kahoy, madunot gid siya. Now, ang kahulugan sinaamo ni, ang myrrh was a perfect symbol then of suffering and the blessing that come from suffering. Nga man, amoy na ang natabo sa mga Kristohanon sa taga-Smyrna. Grabe nga pag-antos ang ilang nagyan. Pero bisan nga nag-antos sila, naghatag sila hamot sa Ginoo. Makita tani karon kung nga nakahatag ini pahamuot ang ining iglesia sa Ginoo, ang iglesia sang Smyrna. Okay? So that's the picture nga makita naton diri. Again, another thing, ang myrrh was used for several purposes. It was used in perfumes. Kay hamot siya mo, hamot gid ya. It was an ingredient of the holy anointing oil for the priests. It was for the purification of women and for embalming. Wise men brought this spice to Jesus at his birth. Thus, myrrh is associated with Christ in his first coming. So remember, ang wise men gave the Lord gold, a picture of his royalty, frankincense, a picture of his deity and purity, myrrh, a picture of his suffering humanity. Okay? Sang ginlansang si Jesus sa cross, if you remember, ginpainom si Jesus wine mingled with myrrh. Pero wala niya to gininom. According to my readings, nakita na ako nga wala to gininom ni Jesus because gusto ni Jesus maka-experience sang complete suffering. So when Christ comes again, he will be presented with gold and frankincense. Again, pero hindi na myrrh nga because his suffering is over. Tapos na. Okay? That is why in Isaiah 60 verse 6, it says, the multitude of camels shall cover thee, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah, all they from Sheba shall come, they shall bring gold and incense, and they shall shew forth the praises of the Lord. So in order for this spice to give out its full fragrance and perfume, you know what? Anohon ini siya? It had to be crushed. It had to be beaten para magwagid ang iya nga hamot. And this is exactly what was done to the church at Smyrna. Nanuni ang mga Kristohanon sa Smyrna. They were being crushed. They were being beaten. They were being persecuted. Pero in spite sina mga utod sa Ginoo, it was in the midst of bitter sorrow and suffering and was the most afflicted and persecuted of all the churches. Grabe, no? Bito ka church, gin-mention sa Revelation, sa tanan nga iglesia, ang Smyrna, ang pinakagrabe nga pag-antos nga na-experiensyahan sa ilang pag-alagad sa Ginoo. Ang kanami diri nga ang bisan na amunang natabo sa ila, in its suffering, it gave off the fragrance of Christ. Why? Because they stand firm in the faith. Wala gid sila nalagyo sa pag-alagad sa Ginoo. Nagtindog gid sila sa kamatuoran sa pulong sa Dios. Bisan grabing pag-antos. Kag nakita sa Ginoo na lipa ang Ginoo nga ang ini nga mga Kristohanon tuod gid nga Kristohanon. Ang gisa kita kung may mga pagtilaw kita, makasala pa kita. Makapamuyayaw pa kita. Gakumod pa kita. Gapangakig pa kita, kasunggod pa kita sa Ginoo. Hindi tani amo na atong reaksyon. Pero ang Ginoo nakita niyang Smyrna wala sa kapatid nga nagkumod sila, nangakig sila sa Ginoo. But in spite sang pressures nga ara sa ila, they still stand for the truth. Kag ina nagpahamot ang aroma naglabot sa Ginoo. And God was very pleased sa sining nga church. Kabay pa amo man sa aton. If you have trials and tribulation, I hope hindi kita makasala. Okay? Ang trials is not designed to make us crack. Alright? But to solidify us. To strengthen His character in us. That's the purpose ng aton mga trials and tribulation. Okay? So I hope nga, kung ano mga pagtilaw nga aton lagyan subong, masapwan kita nga matuod gid ang aton pag-alagad sa Ginoo. Let patience have her perfect work and entire, wanting nothing. Munang siling ni James. So ang Smyrna was an outstandingly beautiful city and claimed to be the glory of Asia during that time. Spacious ang streets around throughout the city. The most famous street was called the Golden Street. Nagsugod ini sa temple ni Zeus, kag nag-end ini sa temple ni Cybele, the goddess of nature. So on every side ng streets, makita ang splendor ng pagan worship. Sabi nga syudad, no? And Smyrna was first in beauty, but also considered first in Caesar worship. Sabi, no? Kagin consider gid inang Smyrna to be the number one city in Caesar worship. Kag ini ang Smyrna was very loyal sa Rome, even in times of civil war. Gasupport gid niya ang Smyrna sa Rome. Ang lain lang kay they actually worship the city of Rome. Kag ang Smyrna was rewarded by Rome by being a free city, a judicial center, which gave it great prominence. So during that time, ang city sang Smyrna nagprosper gid in areas of commerce, science, and medicine. So grabe ang pag-boom sa pag-rebuild tiwat ni Alexander the Great ang lugar sang Smyrna. So ang laway lang is this. Ang tanan mga tao gahambal gid, Caesar was their Lord. They claim nga si Caesar amo ang Dios. Ginasimba nilang emperor, imagine. Diyos tanin simbahon, pero tao ilang ginasimba. Ginasimba nila si Caesar. And refusal to do this was an indication to the Romans that the person was disloyal to Rome, an outlaw or rebel. Sabi, no? But look what happened sa mga Kristohanon na yara sa Smyrna. Smyrna was a place of heroes for many of the Christians. Refused to acknowledge Caesar as their Lord. Amo na nga nalipay ang Ginoo sa sininga church. Even though nga nasubuan ang Ginoo sa lugar sa Smyrna kay ang tao gasimba nas emperor, pero mga Kristohanon wala gid nila gi-acknowledge nga si Caesar amo ang Dios. Okay? Mas ginsimba nila ang tudtuod nga Dios. Amo ni ang background sa Smyrna. Now let's look at number 2, ang ilang affliction or ila adversity o kon ang ilang persecution. Look at verse 8 to 10. It says here, and unto the angel of the church in Smyrna, write, this thing saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Now look at verse 8. Ang term dira nga dead and alive are in the aorist tense, indicating a completed act in the past. Ang Ginoo naghambal sa taga Smyrna, ang iyang botsing anong diri, ang verse rendered nga which was dead and came to life again. Diba? Munang siling sa text. Nag-refer ini sa resurrection ni Jesus Christ. Okay? And our Lord consoles them by reminding them that He had passed through suffering and death and triumphed over it. So in spite gaantos ang mga Kristohanon, pero ang Ginoo nakabalo siya sa ilang pag-antos. Pero naghatag sa lagay, ako nagdaog sini. No? I triumph over it. Now look at verse 10. God said, they would have tribulation, pila? 10 days. Okay? 10 days, indicating that they were going to undergo intense suffering. Pero, lipot lang niya. Lipot lang. May iban nga Bible scholars nagapati as they look back on history now that this could have been a reference to 10 separate attempts to wipe out Christianity by 10 different Roman emperors. Now, ihatag ko ni sa inyo karon ang pulo ka emperors to give you a viewpoint of what had happened sa mga Kristohanon sa unang ation. Okay? Pero wala ko gabutsing ganun nga ang 10 days diri amuni ang natabugid. Alright? Ang ako lang nga point is that ang 10 days may not refer to these events, but it does give us an idea of what believers went through in that time. Alright? So lang taon naton, ano natabo sa una nga mga panahon sa emperor ang nag-reign? Ginano nila mga Kristohanon? Number 1, let's look at Nero. Okay? During 64 to 68 AD, Christians were blamed for the burning of Rome, which was not all true. Alright? So ang ginhimo ni Nero, he crucified Christians and fed them to wild beasts. He also had Paul executed and possibly Peter. Okay? Ang munang natabo sa una. Number 2, ang pag-reign ni Domitian, 90 to 96 AD. Thousands of Christians were killed by him in Rome. He was responsible for banishing John to the island of Patmos. Si John, amo nagsulat sa book of Revelation. Very cruel man si Domitian. Imagine, thousands of Christians were killed. Number 3, ng emperor, si Trajan sa 104 to 117 AD. Christianity was outlawed by his edicts. He was responsible for burning Ignatius at the stake. Number 4, si Marcus Aurelius sa 161 to 180 AD. Christians were tortured and beheaded by this man. Imagine that. Number 5, si Severus sa 200 to 211 AD. He crucified, burned, and beheaded believers. Abi Si Maximinius, 235 to 237 AD, Christians were put to death by him. Si Decius, he executed every Christian he could find and endeavored to obliterate Christianity. Next, si Valerian, his goal was to wipe out Christianity. He put the bishop of Carthage to death. Si Aurelian, he persecuted believers in any way he could. And then number 10, si Diocletian, he was responsible for burning the scriptures. This is what happened, mga utod sa Ginoo. Sang una nga panahon, kaluluoy gid mga Kristohanon. Kasi lingko ba, subong ni, ambot lang, kung may Kristohanon ayhan, magtindo gid sa pulong sa Ginoo. Guro ya, malagyo. Kag magsiling guro nga, hindi ko Christian. Ha? Pero ariyo, ang mga Kristohanon nagtindo gid sa kamaturan sa pulong sang Dios. They die for Christ. Okay? Wala sila nahadlok in spite nga grabe ang pressure sa ila. Grabe ang persecution sa ila. Pero nagtindog sila para sa Ginoo. They stand for the truth. Ambot sa buong subong nga panagon. That is why others believe that the 10 days could have been a reference to the persecution under Diocletian, which lasted exactly 10 years. Each day representing a year. Iban man nga Bible scholars siling understood as 10 short outbreaks of persecution during the New Testament era. Iban man siling ang suffering for 10 days is an actual 10 days. Pero just a brief period of time, but it was very an intense suffering. But whatever that is, beloved in the Lord, ang point natin diri is this. The main thought seems to indicate a time of intense testing. Grabe gidya. But they stand for the truth. Look what happened. The church at Smyrna suffered from 3 sources of pain. Number 1, wala gid sila ginpabayaan sa Ginoo. Munang kanami, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Siling sa Ginoo, I know your tribulation. Diba? Siling sa text. Alright? And the Greek word for tribulation is thlipsis, which means pressure. And this word was used of a man who was tortured to death by being slowly crushed by a big boulder laid upon him. Think about that. It was used to describe the crushing of wheat under the millstone. Imagine na bala kung ano na nga klase nga pag-torture. Daw ginpusa ang tao mo. Hindi gid daw, ginpusa gid. Right? Amo na ang picture diri nga pag-antos. In other words, ang Smyrna church was under great stress and pressure being crushed by the Romans. Hindi niya hapos ang pag-alagad sa tuunang ation. Hato niya hapos lang. Ilaya grabing persecution. Kristuhanon ka, tapos ka. Subong niya, nasa wala lang. That is why in spite silang pag-antos, Jesus told them He knew what they were going through. I know thy works. I know your tribulation, In the pictures of ancient Roman method of threshing grain, one man is always seen stirring up the sheaves, while another rides over them in a crude cart equipped with rollers instead of wheels. So sharp stones and rough bits of iron were attached to these cylinders to help separate the husks from the grain. I hope ma-picture out na ninyo. Yawan ako pangita sang picture dani dira nga makita ninyo. But anyway, amuni ang point nakon. This simple cart was called a tribulum, from which we get our word tribulation. Tribulation. So grabe ang pag-antos. When we say tribulation, hindi hamak ang pag-antos. Just picture out kung ano nga klaseng pag-antos sa mga Kristuhanon sadto nga tiyon. The lesson is this. When great affliction comes to us, we often think of ourselves as being torn to pieces under the cruel pressures of adverse circumstances. Right? Di ba? But realize that the purpose of threshing is to expose the grain. And the purpose of our trials is to bring out the best inside us, not to destroy us. That is why ginhambal ko kay na ang aton mga trials and tribulation is not designed to make us crack, but to solidify us, to strengthen His character in us. Okay? Muna nga dapat kung may mga pagdilaw, hindi tayo magkumod, mag-question sa ginano ni man. Ginhatag na sa Ginoo to test you kung ano ka matud nga Kristohanon. Ilan to sa Ginoo kung ma-please bala siya sa imo mga ginahimo, sa imong response sa mga trials. Okay? Subong grabing dengue. What is your response kung may ara kita dengue? Yes, kululbani, madula na madula ka buhay mo. Pero ano nga itong response? Ipangakig ta? Mamuyayaw ta? Gainit ta? Okay? Ano itong response? That is why ang church ng Smyrna, even grabbing pressure, pero wala sila nag-question sa Ginoo. They die for Christ. That is why the Lord was pleased by this church. Not only I know your tribulation, secondly, I know your poverty. May duha ka Greek word sa poverty. Una, gintawag pineia, which describes the poverty of the man who has to work for a living. Okay? That would describe most of us. Diba? Obrata, para mabuhi ta. Pero ang word nga poverty diri, hindi amo na nga word. Pineya. Pero ang word nga poverty diri sa aton nga text, sa Greek, gintawag ni tukeia, which means destitution. The implication is the person has wala gid ya. Nothing at all. Okay? So ang ini nga mga Kristohanon, kabalo gid sila kung ano gid ang ginatawag nga puwerte gid kay imol. You know what? Hindi nga na-imol gid sila nga tungod kay imol sila nga da. No. You know what ano tubo diri? Because of their stand for Christ. Listen. All right? Tungod kay nagtindog sila sa pulong sa Dios, ilang conviction sa Ginoo nangalagad gid sila. They lost their jobs. Bisan grabe nga persecution ginhatag sa mga Roman sa ila, pero nakakaladula ang ilang trabaho. They lost their businesses and even their social status and were considered outlaws. Imagine. And many of these Christians had their homes plundered by vandals, thieves, and Romans. No one lifted up a finger to help them because of the stigma that was placed upon them. Ay, grabe nga pag-antos. People felt they deserved this treatment. Ginayagota sila. Ginakadlawan sila. Grabing persecution sa ila. Nadula na sila obra. No, para bala siguro sa aton subong nga kung bala nila Kristiyan ka, natistingan ka bala. Grabe nang hisa sa imo. Ha? Sobra pa. Kinadulaan gid sila obra. Waay na ilang negosyo. Nag-anto sila sang kaimol. Imagine, poverty. Poverty. So people hated the Christians in Smyrna for several reasons. Number one, Christians were considered disloyal to Rome because they would not worship Caesar. Number two, Christians were considered atheists because they would not worship the Greek and Roman gods. Number three, Christians were accused of being cannibals because of misunderstanding about the Lord's Supper. Number five, they were accused of being immoral because of greeting a holy kiss. And then Christians were accused of being homebreakers because of the division that was caused when one spouse was saved and another was still lost in sin. Amuning pag-anto sila, mga utod sa Ginoo. Number three, the church at Smyrna suffered from three sources of pain in siling sa Ginoo. I know your tribulation, I know your poverty. Number three, I know the blasphemy. And the Greek word for blasphemy is blasphemia, which means slander. Okay? The Jewish unbelievers hated the Christians and sought to destroy their reputation. Sabi, no? Naabigid niya paguba sila. They had great influence among the Romans, especially Roman women who admired the moral of the Jewish men. And these Roman women could be influenced to speak to their husbands who were in leadership to afflict the Christians. And these Jewish unbelievers were lost and being used of Satan to kill Christians. And for this reason, they are called the synagogue of Satan. Ara sa atong text, ginhambal sa pulong sa Ginoo. They were being called the synagogue of Satan. Imagine ang trials and tribulation naghuman sa sining nga mga Kristiyano. That is why John 8:44 says, "Ye are your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. Abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and a father of it." Today, look at this one. Next slide, please. The church of Smyrna is behind the green curtain of Islamic nations, the bamboo and red curtain of China and other communist countries, and iron curtain of dictatorship nation. Ang lugar subong sa Izmir, Smyrna sa una, ara subong sa Turkey, are very dangerous country. Okay? Muna ang picture diri sa pulong sa Ginoo. Now, Look at verse 10 again. Let's look at the appeal or adjuration. Sa verse 10, makita natin, naghambal ang Ginoo to the faithful unto death, and they would receive a crown of life. Ang word of faithful comes from the root word which means to be convinced. Kasi si Jesus naghambal sa ila, not to be afraid. Bisan grabe nga persecution, ang comfort sa Ginoo sila, hindi ka mo mahadlok. Salig lang sa akon, depend upon Him, to be convinced of Him, and let Him be their strength and courage. Grabe, no? Sakto gid siling sa Ginoo, I will never leave you nor forsake you, in spite gaantos taya. You know what? Anong tabo diri? Hundreds were brought into the amphitheaters of Rome to be fed for hungry lions and tigers, while thousands cheered their death. Grabe. Their deaths, I mean. Many were crucified in crosses. Others were covered with animal skins and tortured to death and eaten by wild dogs. Unang natabo sa mga Kristohanon sa una. Ha? Some were covered with tar of wax and set on fire to serve as torches. Perti ka kuan ni si Nero. Nero did this to illuminate his parties or nighttime chariot races. Grabe kin pang sunog ang Kristohanon. Christians were also boiled in oil or burned at the stake, such as the pastor of Smyrna. Sino ang pastor sa Smyrna? Si Polycarp. You know what? Anong ginhimo nila kay Polycarp? During the 156 AD, si Polycarp nag-refuse gid siya to worship Caesar as their Lord. Since nabatian na sa mga Romans, he was threatened to be burned alive. Pero anong response ni Polycarp? Siling ni Pastor Polycarp, 86 years have I served Christ, and He has never done me wrong. How can I blaspheme my King who saved me? Grabe, no? What a testimony. So, pagkabati sa mga Romans, akig sila. During the Sabbath day, nagtutod gid sila sing kalayo. Gin-challenge pa sila ni Pastor Polycarp, sila ni Pastor Polycarp, nga i-delay na ninyo. Do your will. Di na, init-init pa gid ang mga Romans. To make a long story short, haras gid si Polycarp, kaya ginsunog gid siya. Pero before sa ginsunog, ang final prayer ni Polycarp was gratefulness to the Lord to die for him. And you know what? His final words, in front sa itong mga cruel nga mga tao, kay sugo sa emperor, nga patyon sila, hambal ni Polycarp, I am a Christian. See, he was very proud to say that I am a Christian. Subong, ibang Kristohanon, nahuya nga Kristohanon sila. Hindi gustong pagkilala, mapa-identify nga Kristohanon sila. But look at this man, Pastor Polycarp, pastor sa Smyrna. What a testimony he had for Christ. Ginpabalo niya, Kristohanon siya, kaginsunog, he was burned alive. And in this era, historians estimate that 5 million Christians were martyred for Christ. I have a book about end times, about tribulation, ang author si Grant Jeffrey, siling niya, over the past 2,000 years, 50 million Christians have been martyred. Imagine, muna kasiling ko subong ambot. Grabe, hulubaan, no? May lang iwaitan na tao sa dungation. Grabe ga, pandindog libo ko kabasa, katuon ko labot to, grabe yaw. Ambot, anong maano ko ni man? For ang promise sa Ginoo, those who were faithful will receive a crown of life. And there are two words for crown in the Greek language, diadema, Stephanos. Okay, I'm running out of time. Hebrews 12:1. Siling wherefore seeing we also are compassed about with so great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, the sin which doth easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Atong pagalagad sa Ginoo daw kaangay lang ga-race kita, ha? If you're not faithful, hindi ka maninguha, hindi ka kabaton gid kisang crown. That is why mga lagad ta tudtod gid para may crown kita. And remember 2 Corinthians 5:10, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or be bad. Take note of that, 2 Corinthians 5:10. And Romans 14:10-12, but why dost thou judge thy brother? Or why dost thou set at naught thy brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. For it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. Look at verse 12. So then every one of us shall give an account of himself to God. Ang muna utod sa Ginoo, hindi lango-lango ang atong pagsimba. Hindi pwede makahampang lang ta sa Ginoo, tutuod gini mag-alagad. Right? Hindi niya na basta lang. Tutura kung tuod ka ganyan Kristohanon. Okay? Kaya tanan kita mag-atubang, maghatag husay sa tubangan sang Diyos. Now, there are 5 crowns nga ihatag sa Ginoo sa ato. Number 1, crown of glory. Para lang ini sa mga pastor. For faithful pastor. 1 Peter 5:2-4. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking oversight thereof, not by constraint. Hindi na akong basahon. I'm running out of time. Pero amo na ang verse. Crown of glory for the faithful pastor. Next crown of righteousness. Para ni sa signo, for those who look forward to the return of Christ, are faithful and live a godly life. Okay? That is why, the reason why we should study the book of Revelation. We are looking forward for His coming. Good nga magkabuhitang nga may kahadlok sa Diyos. Magtutom gid kita sa Ginoo. Kung namuna aras ang tagipuson, ang crown of righteousness gahulat para sa aton. I don't know kung amuna bala imo balatyagon. We have a verse on that. 2 Timothy 4:8. Next nga crown is crown of life. For those who love the Lord and are faithful in testing, just like the church of Smyrna. Siling sa Ginoo, I know your tribulation. Bisan grabe nga pagtilaw, pagantos, you will receive crown of life. Nang promise sa Ginoo. Another verse nga promise to, James 1:12. Okay? I don't know paano kita mag-respond sa itong mga trials. If you're faithful sa Ginoo, you have this crown. Number 4, crown of rejoicing. Para ni kay sino? Sa mga nagapangdaog kalag. Praise God sa medical missions. Take part to join sa medical team. No? Kung magpandaog kalag, please take part. You have awaiting sa sining crown of rejoicing. For people who winning people to Christ. There are verses there nga ma-proof nga makita natin. And then ang last is the incorruptible crown for the believer that subdues his body, keeps it under control, and finishes his course for the glory of God. And you know what? Ang Ginoo mag-reward sini nga crown sa aton. What are we going to do with this crown? Ihatag naman ibalik sa Ginoo. Okay? That is why the Christian philosophy of suffering is, out of tribulation comes triumph. Out of persecution comes the prize. Out of death we come to reign. And one day we will take our crowns and cast them at the feet of Jesus Christ. And that is very clear in Revelation 4:10. As I close, let's look at the affirmation. The affirmation. How do we become overcomers? Damo ni. Number 1, the subjection of our body is essential. Control yourself. Okay? We have verses there. I'm going to mention, if you take notes, lista lang. If you want my copy sa PowerPoint, pangayo copy sa multimedia. They will give you a copy. Number 2, how do we become overcomers? Satanic temptation must be resisted. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. What else? Be steadfast in spirit and attitude. Okay? Isa, ang atong attitude, hindi mo. Dapat, ang atong relationship sa ginumayog. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Okay? Kagdamo pa na mga verses. Number 4, supplication should be made to the Lord consistently. Please attend sa aton prayer meeting. Okay? We have prayer meeting every Wednesday. Please come. Please come. Join sa aton prayer meeting. Okay? We need to be prayerful. We are to have an active prayer life. We have verses there. Naging mention na dira. What else? Spiritual strength and growth are essential. Kinanglan gid nimo magtubo sa Ginoo. Hindi pwede nga daw basta lang ta magsulod dire, puli na rin kita. No, kinanglan ikaw magtubo sa Ginoo. What else? Number 6, study the scriptures. Okay? Kung ikaw Kristohanon, kung way kagaton sa pulong sa Ginoo, there is something wrong with your relationship with the Lord. Kinanglan magtuon kagid sa pulong sa Ginoo. Okay? What else? A strong resolve for purity is needed. Okay? Subong budlay ang pangabuhi. Damo lang sa mga butang gabutong sa aton magpalayo sa Ginoo. Pero kinahanglan ta mangin putli sa pag-alagad naton sa Ginoo. What else? There must be a sweet, stable love for the Lord. What else? Sense the importance of our responsibility. Next, the sensual, sinful lifestyle and crowd should be avoided. Ay, kadamo lang gid sa butang nga mahulog kita sa sala. Next, shine for Jesus Christ and share the gospel with the lost. And then support and strengthen others. Magbinuligay kita. And then finally, submit to the Lord and make Him your master. These are all points how to become overcomers according sa saton text kagin mentioned diri. And there are a lot of supporting verses ga prove sina for us to grow deeper in our understanding with the Lord Jesus Christ. Kabayang Ginoo, magpakamay gid sa pulong. May God bless us all. Let us pray. Father, thank you so much for your word. Thank you sa Church ng Smyrna. What a great example for us today and a challenge. Nga kung may mga trials and tribulation kami, kabay pa, hindi gid kami magpalayo sa imo. May we stand firm from your word, just like the Christians in Smyrna. May stand for the truth. Oh God, help us. Kaya hindi namon kaya ang mga pagtilaw nag-abot sa amon. Change our life, Lord. Kabay pa ma-overcome namon ang mga trials and temptations sa among kabuhi. Di namon ni mahimo kung wala ikaw. Salamat gid sa imong pulong. Sa ngalan ni Kristo Jesus. Amen.